Story 1. Buckle up, fasten your seatbelts, and lend me your ears, folks, as this is going to be a long one. I work in customer support for a company that provides specialized software to major players in the healthcare industry. Our clients aren't your average users, they're hospitals, clinics, and medical centers where downtime can have serious consequences. I've been with the company for 5 years and know our software inside and out, so I'm often able to troubleshoot unusual problems and get things back on track without a hassle. A few months ago, though, a new supervisor named Alex joined us. He was fresh from a corporate management program and came in with grand ideas about efficiency and productivity. In his mind, the solution to our slow response times was simple: a script-only policy. According to him, every client interaction needed to be scripted to prevent wasting time on unnecessary advice. No more custom solutions, no additional steps, no thinking outside the box. If a client's issue wasn't in the script, we were to log it, escalate it, and have them wait for a callback. When Alex announced the new policy, I raised my hand, explaining that most clients call us precisely because they're dealing with specific, time-sensitive issues. Sticking rigidly to the script would just frustrate them and, in many cases, fail to solve their problems entirely. Alex didn't budge. "Everyone follows the script, no exceptions," he said, smiling in that overconfident way that made it clear he thought he was reinventing the wheel. "If even our biggest client calls, you follow the script." Fast forward a couple of weeks. One morning, I pick up a call and am greeted by the chief executive officer of one of our top clients, a massive healthcare network we've worked with for years. They hold a multi-million-dollar contract with us, and losing them would be catastrophic. The chief executive officer is calling in a panic because their entire system is down. The glitch they're dealing with is blocking patient records and diagnostics, putting patient care at risk. This isn't just a technical issue, it's affecting people's health. As soon as he describes the issue, I recognize the problem. It's a known bug with a straightforward, 5-minute workaround, something I've handled a dozen times before. But here's the thing, the fix isn't in the script. I'm immediately torn. My instincts tell me to help him, to do my job and prevent a disaster. But Alex's strict orders echo in my head. Follow the script. No exceptions. If I help, I risk my job. If I don't, I risk this client's contract and possibly lives. So, I do exactly as Alex told me to do. I go through the script, step by painful step. The chief executive officer is losing patience fast. As I drone through basic troubleshooting steps he clearly doesn't need, he interrupts, asking why I'm wasting time. I explain the policy. I'm only allowed to offer solutions that are in our script. If this doesn't fix it, I can escalate the case, and someone will call you back within 24 hours. He goes silent, then says, "Escalate it, now." I log the issue as required, escalating it for a callback. Within an hour, word spreads that Alex has been summoned to an emergency meeting with our department head. Apparently, the chief executive officer of our client had gotten in touch with our company's leadership directly and wasn't holding back. He demanded an explanation for the sudden drop in our service quality and threatened to take his business elsewhere. Rumor has it he even said, "If your idea of support is running through a script instead of fixing the problem, then we're done here." By the end of the day, we all received an email titled, "Script Policy Update." Effective immediately, we were now encouraged to use best judgment and to go off script as needed for high-priority issues. Alex's entire efficiency plan was scrapped on the spot, and he's now under performance review. It's safe to say he's lost any respect from our team, and I'm not sure his reputation will ever recover after that blunder. In the days that followed, the story of the client meltdown spread like wildfire through the office, growing more exaggerated with each telling. Some people said the chief executive officer threatened to sue. Others claimed he'd hinted at buying out a competitor. Regardless of the details, Alex's name became a kind of cautionary tale, a reminder of what happens when you put rigid policies above common sense. And as for me, well, I've been doing my job the way I always have, thinking on my feet, solving problems, and trusting my instincts. The difference now is I have a little smirk every time I think about it. After all, I was just following orders. Story 2. I only have 2 experiences with an "I don't work here lady" situation, but I just thought of this one today. I was a zone manager over all clothing and baby in a large, Midwest big box store, and we'd recently had a large rash of theft using the changing rooms, so we decided to keep them locked at all times, and whoever had the department phones would have keys, and myself and my 2 assistant managers would have our own sets of keys. I only had 1 set of keys, so I ran across the street to the big box hardware store with the original keys, still dressed in my blue button-up shirt with my name badge and the company logo on it, and went to the company where everyone had orange aprons on. I made my way to the key duplication area, let the guy there know how many I needed, and he began running the machine. While he is doing that, a business casual Karen walked up. I say that because she had a Karen cut adjacent haircut, and an outfit that an adventurous Karen would wear, but also a typical soccer mom without a chip on her shoulder would wear cardigan, tank top under, and I assume I didn't look pants. Maybe she was a recovering Karen that was having a slip day. ID. Anyway, the lady stands there and stares at the guy for a moment, then stares at me for a second. I politely smile, then go back to playing on my phone, knowing the worker had just started my second keys stack of duplications. I hear a bit of a huff, like she said something but didn't give it enough air to really project the words. Finally, a few seconds later, she shrieks, going 25 to 100 instantly, "Is anyone going to effing help me?" and is staring daggers at me. I kind of cock my head to the side and look at her. The worker looks at her, then looks around as if maybe another coworker was around and not paying attention. Nope, in the immediate vicinity was just her, me, the worker, and my keys. I just sort of smile and say, "I'm sure he will," pointing to the worker, "when he's done with me." I point to my badge, which I'll admit worried me because after the fact, I wondered if she was going to report me for not helping her to my store's director. But she didn't and say, "Now if you were across the street I'd be happy to help you, but I am ill-equipped to do much here." It took me a long time to even find the key kiosk here. She goes from angry to embarrassed instantly, stammers an awkward apology, so maybe the Karen wasn't permanent, and all but sprints towards the front of the store. Worker and I laugh about it. As I go to leave, he tells me that maybe I should stop being lazy and help her even though you don't work here because she needs help. I shoot back, I'm not qualified to give her the kind of help she needs. When I go back to my store and submit the paperwork for reimbursement for the keys, I tell my store director that I might get a complaint, then tell him the story. He just rolls his eyes and tells me to help her if I see her in here. Never did, thank God. Story 3. Not my last job, but the one before that went through a period wherein they required I wear a uniform. Basically, it was a dark blue button-up or Oxford style. I ended up with 4 of the buttons up and 3 of the Oxfords. Also, being in it, I thought I looked more professional in khakis. I bet you can tell the location of this tale. I was in Wally World looking at the vending machine in the entryway when a woman came storming past me screaming at the poor door greeter that she was in a hurry, was paying someone to watch her kid, and needed something fast. I don't remember what. Some cooking appliances that I'm not familiar with. I finally pick my drink, get my can, and head in to get my groceries. And the woman sees me and walks over waving and snapping and yelling to get my attention. This leads only to me looking at her like she was a nutter and raising one eyebrow. She starts screaming, "I need thing. I'm in a hurry since I'm paying that thief of a neighbor every half hour to watch my kid. So hurry up and get one for me." Someone thought Walmart was a full-service shop. I explained, somewhat rudely, that I don't work there. I'm not sorry if you come stomping up to me yelling and waving and making me consider punching you in the face, a good way to not get hurt. I'm not a civil being. Don't try that game. You kids today hate working. Go get me the thing right this minute, or I will report you to management. Oh no, not management. Please miss, don't report me. I'll go grab it right now. Apparently, she missed the sarcasm dripping from the words and waved me away. I ran off like I was in a hurry into the home appliances aisle, out the other side, down to the grocery side of the store, grabbed a shopping cart and proceeded to get my groceries. Every 10 to 15 minutes I'd run back over without the cart and assure her I was looking, that it might be in the back somewhere. The magical in the back seemed to please her. I kept this going for the 2 hours it took me to get all of my food. Cold stuff last, naturally. Then went to buy it. At the register right near her, I made it a point to wave and click and snap to get her attention. She exploded and began screaming and cussing and stomping over, demanding to know what I was doing shopping instead of helping her. The poor cashier didn't know what to do and just set her light to flashing and got the heck out of there. I told you. I am not an employee here. I'm trying to get my food and you've interrupted that process. Go away. Get me a manager. I am going to have you fired, and then I'm going to have your boss fired. Tell you what, I'll call my boss. I want them here right now. A manager of some sort was talking to the cashier, one of the women who stood up front at the little not register thing. I called Mike, my boss at the repair shop, and explained I had an angry woman wanting to talk to him. Even without a speakerphone, she heard him say, "Tell her to get lost then," and hang up. That made everything better. Finally, one of the actual managers came up and tried calming the woman down to explain that I did not work there. Her harassing me was causing a scene, and he would be happy to take her to his office and solve the issue. Apparently, this wasn't satisfying to her, as she proceeded to call him a liar and slapped him hard enough to knock his glasses off. Now she was yelling at him, he was screaming at her and into his radio, and a cop was heading their way. I finally got the cashier to come back and begin ringing me up, and while the cop was arresting the woman for assault, I sat there apologizing to the girl about it all. The manager finally asked me why the woman was so mad at me, and I just told him she thought I worked there. I told her I didn't, and she assumed I was lying and apparently was waiting on me to get something for her. The cop had a partner, I guess, show up, and he took a statement from me outside, wherein I told him the whole story. Got me a slight chuckle, then a disapproving "you know I could arrest you for disorderly conduct, right?" By this point my ice cream was feeling pretty sloshy, so I went back in to get it replaced. The manager again asked me if I did anything to antagonize the women. Said no. The door greeter actually backed up my story by verifying that I did tell the woman I wasn't an employee and got threatened for doing so. Got my new ice cream, went home, made tacos for dinner, and hoped I never saw that woman again. Story 4. Yesterday, my family and I went out for a nice dinner and a movie, a rare treat. Since we live fairly far apart and are all busy with our own jobs, our group included my dad, mom, sister, and me. Everything was relaxed. We were enjoying the food, and the movie was kind of funny. None of us could have anticipated what would happen afterward. When the movie ended, we started making our way down the row toward the exit. This cinema is pretty small, with only one door, so it was a bit of a squeeze. As I glanced back to check on the rest of my family, I saw my mom in a tense argument with a couple blocking her way. The man was a balding, middle-aged man with thick glasses and an oily face, and the woman was dressed in a black dress, a gold necklace, and had a very artificial-looking blonde hairstyle. Both of them exuded an unbearable, smug attitude, as if they felt somehow superior. It quickly became clear that the couple was refusing to move aside and let my mom pass. You see, my mom has a medical issue with her knee, and she wanted to exit from this side of the row so she wouldn't have to walk the entire length of it. She explained this politely, but the woman mocked her, tauntingly saying, "Oh, just climb over me then," and, "No, I want to see the credits." After a while of going back and forth, the woman even put her feet up on the seat in front of her, deliberately blocking my mom's way. This was too much for my mom, who, visibly upset, ended up having to walk the long way around to exit, crying as she passed me. I can't stand seeing my family disrespected, and I knew that if I didn't do something, this incident would bother me for weeks. That's when I remembered the water bottle I had with me, filled to the brim. I walked back to where the couple was still seated, and without a word, I poured some of the water right onto both of them, directly hitting their laps. They had been looking at me with smug, triumphant expressions until the water hit them. Suddenly, their faces changed to shock and disbelief. The man, who had also yelled at my mom earlier, stammered, "Double, why would you do that? You can't just do that." It was clear they had never considered that their rude behavior could lead to consequences. As I turned to leave, I saw the woman go into an absolute rage. She started climbing over her boyfriend and the seats to get to me, despite him calling out, "Just let it go. Don't do it." Right as I reached the exit, I realized she was right behind me, fists clenched, only a couple of steps away. I turned to face her and asked, "Oh, so you want to fight?" To my surprise, she shouted back, "Yes, let's fight." Now, here's the thing, I'm a 23-year-old guy, fairly muscular, and I've been into combat sports for a while. I've trained in both Wing Chun and Muay Thai for a few years, so I wasn't exactly worried. But don't get me wrong, I didn't hurt her. I didn't even attack her. I just assumed a defensive stance, took one step forward, and asked her again if she really wanted to go through with it. She just stood there, still drenched from the water, visibly furious. I half hoped she'd try to take a swing so that I could end the situation in a controlled, self-defense manner. But she just stared at me, so I threw a light warning kick not at her, but just to create a bit more distance. At that point, she seemed to hesitate, and then, suddenly, she ran back into the cinema. My mom and sister stepped between us, trying to calm things down, while the woman ducked behind some other people in the cinema. I called after her, saying, "Where are you going? I thought you wanted to fight." Her boyfriend eventually made his way toward the exit, looking completely baffled by the situation. We finally left the cinema, and on our way out, a kind woman reassured us, saying she had noticed how irrationally the woman had been acting, and even speculated that she might have been under the influence of something. In the end, it turned out to be quite the story from our family night out. As for the woman and her boyfriend, they left with nothing but soaked clothes and a few awkward stares. Fair deal, if you ask me. Quick summary. A rude woman harassed my mom. I stood up for her by throwing water on the woman, who then tried to fight me. Edit. For those commenting that I escalated the situation, yes, you're absolutely right. This story reflects how I reacted in the moment. You're welcome to form your own opinion of me based on it. I hadn't been in a situation like this before and wanted to share my experience. My goal here isn't to be praised. I appreciate everyone sharing different perspectives on how to handle situations like this. Story 5. So a little backstory. I started training in the martial arts shortly after I graduated high school back in 2008. The school I trained at focused mainly on Taekwondo. Then at Blue Belt, students would start training in basic Jeet Kune Do and Eskrima. The Jeet Kune Do they taught was more or less combat kickboxing, while Eskrima utilized one of the weapons my school taught, single or double rattan sticks. The school I trained at also had a sister school and students could train at either school, so now on to the story. This happened about 5 or 6 years ago. But the martial arts school I trained at would host a special 2-hour expert training session once a month that would be open to all students, so long as they were at least a blue belt and 16 or older. Well, roughly 5 minutes before the first session was set to start, a family, a man and his 2 kids, a boy who was no older than 10 and a girl who was maybe 14, from our sister school walked in, set their bags down and started warming up for the class. The instructor walked up to the man and told him, "Sir, you are aware that this session is only open to students who are 16 and up. Your children are going to have to sit and watch." The man, who is a local lawyer, huffed and said, "Well, our instructor said that it was open for students 13 and up." The instructor said, "Originally, we were going to open it to students 13 and up, but ultimately decided to make it 16 and up at the last minute. Your daughter can participate, but your son is going to have to sit out." The man then practically whined, "My son has been talking about this session all week. You're going to disappoint him. Can't you make an exception?" The instructor counted the number of students lined up for the class, sighed and said, since there would be an odd number of students if just your daughter participated. I'll make an exception for your son as well, just this once. But your children will have to partner with each other. They're much smaller than everyone else here. And after tonight, this session is only open to students who are 16 and up. The training session was great and went off without a hitch until we started the eskrima drills. The man's daughter had twisted her ankle during an earlier drill and decided to sit the rest of the session out in me. Being the third shortest person in the session and the odd one out, I ended up being partnered with the 10-year-old kid. Now, the sticks we use for eskrima are about 26 inches long, 66 centimeters, and standard sticks have an inch diameter, but smaller students can use sticks with a smaller diameter, with 0.8 inch being the smallest diameter allowed by our school. But the sticks this kid was using were roughly the diameter of a Crayola marker, and were being held together with a bit of electrical tape as both sticks had been broken clear in half. Before the drills started, I asked the instructor if he could let the kid borrow a set of sticks because his were beyond usable and extremely unsafe at that point. The instructor agreed with me and went to give the kid a brand new set of 0.8 inch diameter sticks when the kid's father butted in and said, "He can't use those. They're too big for him. Just let him use his normal sticks. I have them taped well, it'll be fine." Once again, the instructor sighed and told me to just go easy on them. During the first few drills, I did what I could to hit the kid's nunchuck-like sticks as gently as I could while keeping as much distance between me, 5'4", and the kid barely 4'5", as I possibly could. Then it happened. The tape on one of the kid's sticks failed as he swung it towards my stick, and the top half of the stick hit just a few centimeters below my left eye. I snapped and practically screamed, "For the love of God, could we get this kid a different set of sticks?" While holding my face, my instructor rushed over to me and asked me what happened. So I told him, half of the kid's stick just hit me in the face. Since I had a small cut under my eye, I was told to go and clean it up a bit, then return to the mat. The instructor then turned to the boy and said, "Sir, I need you to give me your sticks, and I'm going to need you to use these for the rest of the drills." The boy, who was on the verge of tears, nodded and took the sticks from the instructor while his father stormed over. "I thought I told you, he can't use those sticks. They're too big for him. Just tape his sticks back together and let him use them." The instructor turned to the man and said, "Sir, those sticks just caused an injury. This person has a cut just below her eye. If she had been hit just a little higher, it could have been a devastating injury for her. I'm confiscating these sticks, and your son can keep the new set I just gave him." I came back onto the mat, just in time to see the entitled dad's face turn beet red, and he exclaimed, "You can't confiscate my son's sticks. I'm a lawyer. You have no right to take my property." The instructor sighed again and said, "Sir, it's stated in our student contract that instructors have the right to confiscate weapons and equipment that have broken, or otherwise pose a safety risk to the user and/or other students. You should have replaced these sticks as soon as they broke. My decision is final, and if you keep screaming, I'm going to dismiss you from the session." The man huffed and said, "Well, I tried, but my instructor told me he couldn't order that size for me anymore, because they were too small to be used safely. But my son can't use the smallest diameter you offer." The instructor responded with, "Well, sir, if your son is too small to use the smallest equipment size we offer, then maybe he should wait a few more years before training at this level." The boy's eyes widened, and he cried, "Dad, it's okay. I can use these sticks. They're fine." The lawyer then sighed and said, "Fine. But I'm never training at this location again, and I want to see where it says you can just take broken equipment in the student contract." The boy apologized for what happened, and I apologized to him for freaking out like I had, and told him I wasn't blaming him for what happened. It was his father's fault anyway. I spent the rest of the drills giving the kid an impromptu private lesson. I had been training for almost 8 years at that point, and could practically run the drills in my sleep. He didn't have any trouble using the thicker sticks and found them more comfortable than his old sticks. I even helped him put some grip tape on his sticks after the session, since his sticks had a design carved into the rattan that dug into his hands. And true to his word, the entitled lawyer dad and his kids only trained at our school's sister location from there on out. Story 6. This happened just yesterday. I am a 26-year-old man who just had minor surgery. I'm about 1.92 meters tall and weigh over 120 kilograms. This will be important later. Recently, I underwent surgery to remove a pigment on my skin that could have led to health complications if left untreated. My body has been trying to heal, but I also caught a bit of a cold as the weather's getting colder. So, I'm a bit of a mess, sick, tired from recovery, and generally drained. I live alone, so I'm doing my best to handle everything on my own. My dad and I share a side job, reviewing electrical products for different companies. Part of this job involves filling out paperwork for the companies in a digital format, and I help him with this. When I told him I was under the weather and recovering, he offered to bring me some much-needed groceries and medication. However, over time, I've noticed my dad becoming more and more aggressive about my weight. He's been pushing me to lose weight for months now, which I understand, and I've already started making an effort. However, recently, he's gotten meaner and more intense about it. He often yells at me, calling me overweight, and will even point out heavier people in public, saying, "If you don't lose weight, you'll look like that one day." Just for context, I'm not morbidly obese or facing any critical health issues. I'm content with myself, and I am working on shedding weight, but change doesn't happen overnight. Last week was particularly hard. During a 3-hour work session, he made 5 comments about my weight. At one point, he even insisted I stand on an industrial scale to see my weight and threw a fit when he saw the number. Later, at a pub where we stopped for lunch, he loudly criticized me, saying how messed up I am and how I'll face health problems if I don't change. The hypocrisy is hard to ignore. I've learned to stay silent and not react to his remarks, but it's tough when he expects me to be perfect and criticizes me constantly. It used to feel like he cared, but now it feels more like harassment. He's upset that I'm not his ideal version of a son. Heaven forbid we even discuss my personal beliefs or identity. He gets angry just at the thought. It's clear he wants me to follow his instructions simply because, "You're my son, and you'll do what I tell you to." Anyway, back to the story. The day came when he arrived at my apartment. I went out in my pajamas, trying to keep warm, and yes, I was wearing underwear beneath them. I looked tired and a bit messy since I hadn't showered that day, as I was still feeling unwell. I handed him a USB drive with the work I'd completed, mentioning that I'd finish the rest later since I hadn't been feeling up to doing more. He brought up using the bathroom, which I said was no problem. As we climbed the steps and I got my keys to let him in, he made a remark. "Wait, are you wearing underwear under your pajamas? I've told you that wearing underwear under pajamas can hurt your waist. You need to let that area breathe." And on he went with his health lecture. Out of sheer frustration and exhaustion, I replied, not trying to be rude but definitely sounding annoyed. "Dad, could you just for once see me without pointing out something I'm doing wrong?" He immediately snapped. "You know what? If you're going to be this rude and disrespectful, then you can take care of yourself. I came out here to help, and this is how you treat me?" I tried to calm things down, saying, "Dad, I didn't mean it that way. It's just that every time you say something, it feels like a personal attack." But then he hit me with, "You know what? You can go fend for yourself, for all I care." I just froze, looking up at him, hoping he didn't mean it. I asked, "You're joking, right? You can't be serious." To my disbelief, he doubled down, saying, "Yeah, my coworker was right about you. You're going to end up in a terrible situation, and when you're on your deathbed, you'll have no one to blame but yourself." I was stunned. He barely said another word, used the bathroom, then left with a curt goodbye and slammed the door on his way out. Right after, I called my mom to explain what had happened. She was furious with him. My parents are divorced, and she even offered to call him and give him a piece of her mind. I asked her not to, worried he'd react poorly and somehow twist it to be my fault. We agreed it was best to minimize contact with him unless necessary. Letting his behavior slide would only make things worse. For some added context, I am autistic and have attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, so I think and work a bit differently than most people. Despite everything, I know right from wrong, and I can't imagine speaking to anyone the way he did. Even if he's under stress or feeling low, his words were still deeply hurtful. This entire experience has left me anxious and shaken. My dad has always been prone to outbursts, but they were usually about small things. This, however, was something much bigger. I'm worried that he may be struggling with loneliness or depression, so I'm trying to keep that in mind. He's been there for me for much of my life, so it's hard not to feel indebted to him. But right now, it feels as though he's using that history to make me feel like I owe him. I don't really need advice. I know what I have to do regarding our relationship, but I am left wondering if anyone else feels this is as wrong as I do. Feel free to share your thoughts. I'll probably update this later. I hope this wasn't too intense a read, but I'm genuinely interested in others' opinions and maybe some ideas on how to handle this going forward. Update. Hey everyone, I didn't think I'd be posting again so soon, but here I am. First of all, I want to thank all of you sincerely for your support and kind words over the past few days. Your encouragement really reinforced my belief that I made the right choice. Unfortunately, the peace didn't last long, so here's an update on what happened. 2 days after my last post, my dad started bombarding me with phone calls and messages like, "Why aren't you replying? Are you okay?" I ignored him the entire day, trying to get some rest. As I type this, I'm still sick, and my stitched-up wound is sore as it slowly heals. Then, out of nowhere, I hear tapping at my kitchen window a couple of hours later. Tap, tap. I got up looking exhausted, and who do you think was standing there? My dad, in his usual state of confusion, staring at me, trying to figure out why I'd been ignoring him all day. I'll break down our conversation here as it happened through the window. Me, in the most exhausted, deadpan tone, with zero patience. "What? Dad, you weren't picking up your phone or replying to my messages. I was worried something was wrong." Me. "Yes, Dad, something is wrong. I'm sick, feeling awful, and the moment you see me, all you do is criticize everything I do." Dad. "I'm sorry. I thought you'd had a heart attack or something." A thinly veiled jab at my weight. "I was really worried about you." Me, exaggerating a hand gesture of my mind being blown. "Wow, that's amazing. It's almost like what you said yesterday didn't even matter. Why do you think I'm not talking to you? Maybe it's because you told me I could drop off the face of the earth for all you cared." Dad just looked at me in shock. Seeing how furious I was, he didn't even try to argue that point. "Dad, I never said something like that." Me. "Yes, you did, Dad." Dad. "No, I swear I don't remember saying that. Really. Maybe I had low blood sugar or something. But you know I've always loved you and supported you." Me. "Well, Dad, even if you didn't mean it, you have to take responsibility. Even someone under the influence can usually admit when they've messed up, but you doubled down. I gave you many chances to take it back and apologize, but you never called, never showed remorse, and never admitted that you might have crossed a line." My dad looked completely deflated. His usual confident demeanor was gone, and he clearly realized he had no right to raise his voice at me. I was furious, yelling at him, but I made sure everything I said was controlled, organized, and true. I wasn't making a scene. I was in full control of my words and actions. "Dad, look, I'm really sorry. I truly don't remember saying that to you. I'm just dealing with a lot of things. And as your dad, you're supposed to listen to me." Me. "Yes, but I'm an adult now, Dad. I'm a grown man who can make his own choices. It frustrates me that you're practically forcing me into doing what you want without giving me the freedom or the right to speak up. You're acting like a hypocrite." Dad. "Yes, sorry. Anyway, here's a USB drive. A couple of files need fixing. I'll come pick it up tomorrow." Then he threw me the USB drive, clumsily hitting me with it. Me. Sure, yeah, I'll fix it. Dad. Thank you. I'll drop off some groceries, too. Me. Do whatever you want, Dad. The next day, he came back to the back door. I tried to look my best, but being sick and mostly bedridden had taken its toll. Dad, you look terrible. Me. Thanks for noticing. Here are the files. I fixed them and moved them. Dad. Thank you. And again, I'm really sorry about everything. Me. Yeah, whatever. As if you actually care. Bye. I closed the door, and he left. After that, I had some time to cook, clean, and catch up on other things. I ended up waking from a sweaty nightmare where my dad had forgotten everything, even me. That kind of nightmare is common for me whenever I feel guilt or have unresolved feelings about a situation. Even though many of you have encouraged me to cut contact, some suggested it might be due to some kind of underlying condition on his part. I still need to talk with my mom to get her perspective on all of this. My plan, once I'm feeling better, is to sit down with him for a serious conversation. But if he tries to argue, I'm leaving. No matter how much my dad thinks he has the right to say, I'm your dad, so do as I say. I have the right to say, I'm your son, and I can choose to leave if that's what I need. Thank you for reading. There's more to this story, including a new message exchange, but I'll get into that later. I'm still considering going completely no contact, but I'll give him a chance to understand my side since I don't want to throw away 26 years of my life with him if there's a chance he'll change. Thank you for your support on my previous post.